IVM.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Geek Fruit Podcast. My name is Dinkar and with me is my best friend and colleague, Jishnu Guha.
Hi.
Hey Jishnu, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. What's up with you? What you been up to?
I was just telling you before we started, I had a coming of age moment this morning.
What was your coming of age moment?
I am a dirty 30
Okay.
and I just got my first nose hair that has protruded from my nostrils.
What? At 30? That's not an age thing, is it?
Well,
it's an age thing?
I never noticed the hair in my nose
Okay. And
until this morning.
how did you deal with it?
Minor existential crisis.
Okay.
But then I stopped caring.
But
Almost immediately.
You're a person who'll have to
Hence a minor crisis.
Right.
It lasted like a second.
Okay. And now, are you prepared for life as a nose hair haver?
Well, I will make swift justice of this hair.
Right.
And then I will move on with my life.
You need to prepare something along the lines of a machete kit to deal with the nose hair.
I hear these are dandy
They
things to have
are.
in the apocalypse.
Yes, our producer for the moment, Antariksh, mentioned that he needed.
Like he's producer for the moment.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he's
No
planning to
faith.
stick around.
No faith. Lucky number 13? No?
Dude, he wants
12?
like he.
Antariksh, 12? 13? I forget. Nobody knows. We've stopped counting. Okay.
Yeah, I think he might be 13 actually, but yes, he has told us that he'll pack a machete kit for the apocalypse. Have you ever mentioned what you're going to pack, Jishnu?
I didn't think that you would get time to pack for the apocalypse.
This is
Unless you're
not
planning
packing
ahead.
on the day of the
Well, that's
apocalypse.
what- that's
This is
what I
your
mean.
go bag. You have it ready to go. So when the apocalypse hits, you pick it up and you bounce. You don't it's not like you find out about the apocalypse and you go like,
I honestly
okay,
feel like
cool. I guess I
I
better
wouldn't
pack
wanna
some
be- I
clean
don't-
underwear, nose hair trimmer, t-shirts.
You know, honestly, I always think about, okay, best case scenario, you survive the apocalypse, right?
Yes.
Then what? Then you're the only sucker left on this planet.
Well, that's why you carry like a.
But then what do you do? What, like, I'm going to pack a bunch of books to keep me entertained for the rest of my life?
Sure, why
By
not?
myself?
Yes, that's a thing.
Nah, I'm too lazy for that. I
Too
think
lazy
I'd
to pack the books?
No, I wouldn't want to live on a planet where there's nobody else.
So are you going to kill yourself if you survive the apocalypse?
No, I think I'd kill myself before the apocalypse. See, like, it's coming. Screw this.
Then you might
I'll
might
go out
as
on my
well-
own terms.
Why don't you go out during the apocalypse in like a blaze of glory?
Nah.
Come on, man. You
Yeah,
would
it's
be
too much.
legend. Jishnu am legend.
But then the legend won't get carried on because everybody else is dead. Because it's the apocalypse. See?
but maybe in the afterlife.
Afterlife.
Yeah, the after dot life.
I'm not going anywhere where there are other good people. So,
What will you pack for the afterlife, Jishnu?
a warm blanket.
Okay. Because you think it's cold in heaven. It is very cloudy up there.
I'm not going to heaven. No.
Having nose hairs isn't a sin, by the way.
That was too much information, wasn't
That
it?
was a lot of information.
That was a pretty big thing to start with for the day.
Yes, all right. Anyway,
I'm
speaking
not
of
gonna
big
have
things to start with for the day, today we are speaking of Dracula, a certain count. Tell me, when did you first hear of Dracula? Have you?
It was a dark and stormy night.
Of course it was.
I was quite afraid of the stars in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tell me, how familiar are you with the
not at all. Just but
the legend of Dracula?
isn't it funny though? Like how everybody knows the fast facts
Yeah.
about Dracula.
Okay.
And
See, how could you fight a Dracula?
like everybody knows about the garlic, everybody knows about the mirror,
Garlic,
everybody knows
mirror.
about the.
Can turn into a bat.
I was gonna say turn to a bat, but then isn't there like in this show he turns into a wolf, right?
So I believe in this show,
I was like, yo,
he
are you a
can-
werewolf now? Like what happened?
By the way, just for context, in case anyone listening doesn't know, we are now talking about the 2020 version of Dracula, which is created by Mark Gatiss and what's the name of it? Stephen Moffat. Yeah. The
Are we
boys
going to
who've
spoil
done,
this thing, by the way?
I was thinking about it. So the thing is, it's only 3 episodes, but they're 3 episodes of an hour and a half long, and it
So it's
relies
like
a lot on twists.
4.5 hours.
Yeah, it's 4.5 hours. And I don't think a lot of people would have seen it already. We obviously rushed to see it a little quickly so
Right.
we could talk about it.
Shall
but
we not then, I guess?
I think we shouldn't, but what we could do is
That's a first.
keep it fairly spoiler free and then spoil it episode by episode.
So we are spoiling it. Okay, cool.
Eventually, not immediately.
All right,
Okay, so dear listener, first segment, spoiler free. Second segment, we will spoil each episode one at a time. So what you could do even is watch an episode, come back, listen to 5 minutes of this. We'll spoil that section, discuss that episode, go back, watch the second episode, then come back and watch listen to the second episode discussion, so on, so on. Right. So,
wow. I love it when a show has structure.
Well,
Talk structure to me, won't you?
Tell me, but you watched this without structure, you were telling me. You watched 4.5 hours in a row of
pretty
this
much.
show?
Yeah. Because we were going to do this last week.
Right.
And then I felt really sick, and I still kind of am. But that's why I rushed to watch it so we could... But we were going to record this episode last week. But also, I surprisingly really enjoyed it. For somebody who is a, self-confessed not a horror fan, I was a little reticent. But then the thing that kept me intrigued was, or rather hooked me into it, was the names attached to it. Gatiss and Moffat. I really, really like those guys. And I loved that I didn't know any of the names in the cast. I love when I can finally see, I know it's not an fully original idea. It's freaking Dracula.
It is Dracula.
But it is a brand new cast, and it's showrunners that I trust, and I really enjoy their style. So I was like, okay, if I ever were to do a horror-y thing, I guess I'll do this. And to my pleasant surprise, not a single moment for even a half a second ever remotely scared me.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't very horror-y.
At all.
Right? Not horrific.
Yeah. Did you have any issues with? There were a few moments of viscera.
Some gore. Yeah, there was some viscera.
Did that bug you?
Not particularly. Okay. I mean, I was...
Because it was founded?
I was sufficiently creeped out, but I watched in spite of it because though viscera affects me, I still was enjoying the show. So, okay, let's preface this by saying that we have, across the board, pretty much enjoyed the show. I know Tejas likes it as well.
Oh, yeah?
Right?
Awesome.
Yeah. Let's just discuss first this affinity we have for Gatiss and Moffat. They've done Sherlock previously. They've done Doctor Who. And they've done Jekyll. Did you ever see that?
No.
I saw a bit of it, but it was again... So their thing...
Same deal, same style of
Pretty
format.
much. So like their entire thing, like Sherlock, which I'm guessing pretty much everyone has seen at this point.
I hope so.
The concept behind Jekyll was also, well, what if it was Jekyll, but today. So Dracula is really off a piece with everything else they've done because Doctor Who is taking a classic character and kind of updating it.
Yeah.
Sherlock is the same. Like now Sherlock texts.
Right.
No spoilers. And in Jekyll is a weird story actually. It's again, it was a few episodes. I didn't even finish it because I thought it was okay. But Mireia Sial was in it. She was playing a cop who pulls Jekyll in. She's that British Indian actress. You'd know her when you see her.
Goodness gracious me.
Yes, correct. And Kumar's at number 42.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah, she's
fun.
cool. She's
like
cool. So again, in Jekyll, the concept was that this dude called, something like Jekyll, but his name wasn't Jekyll.
Jack Lyle.
Something like that. I actually think it might have been Jack Lyle, for all I know. He realizes that he's transforming into someone else, and then someone else tells him, oh, it's like Jekyll and Hyde. And he's like, who? And they're like, that story. And then he looks up the story and he's like, oh my God, am I Jekyll and Hyde? And then Mireia Sial calls him in and says, Jekyll and Hyde was based on a real thing. Nobody knows this is a secret. We buried it years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So you see the similarities in their work.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I felt that these guys are obviously incredibly smart.
Yeah.
What sometimes bothers me about them is that they lean into it in a, aren't we smart kind of way? Like, you know how Sherlock would have this tendency to sometimes be overconfident in how clever it was being?
Right.
Especially towards the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
In spite of that, great moments throughout. And this is really like the nitpickiest of nitpicks. But I feel like that's important in the discussion of this show because that same issue cropped up for me a couple of times.
Yes, I completely agree. I think it sits better in Sherlock because the character himself is such a snob about how smart he is. So it kind of perfectly makes sense. This one, yes, not so much because it's not in the lore, quote unquote, for the world of Dracula to be a I know something you don't know kind of a world.
Yeah.
But that said, I freaking loved Dolly Wells, I think is her name. Sister Agatha.
Yeah.
I was so in love with her.
She was great.
And I realized within maybe the first 20 minutes when she gets serious screen time as the first episode progresses, when you can figure out, she's like a protagonist of some sort, because you didn't know the power dynamic at the beginning of it when they're just interrogating the guy. But when you start to realize, okay, she's sort of leading us through this, watching it through her eyes a little bit, or rather figuring things out as she is. I love the fact that we got a... Where was she from? She was from Hungary, right? From Budapest? Or the convent was in Budapest. I forget where she was
something
from.
like that, I think.
Either which way.
Some sort of European accent.
Yeah, like an Eastern European accent, which was so used to hearing in the antagonist's voice.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the... Like a Nazi or some like Bond villain has got some Eastern European accent. You know, it's like, why is that? Why are those guys always so ominous? And I love the fact that we're getting basically a Sherlock in the way that she was dissecting the situation in the story. But we're getting a Sherlock, or we're getting a super sleuth, we're getting a Poirot kind of a character from Eastern Europe. And I love that. Just because it was just something like the musicality to it of like having that sound and that voice be somebody that I'm rooting for was such a refreshing breath of fresh air. I just like that. I just like that little flip. I like that little flip. It was nothing...
And her performance, I thought, was absolutely fantastic. Stellar. Especially as the series goes on, she has to deal with a lot more, and she handles it brilliantly.
So I was in love with both of them.
She was a worthy match. Yeah, both these guys. I'm not familiar with either of them.
No, not at all.
The person who portrays Dracula, his name is...
Bang.
Yes, which is an awesome name, first of all. Name. God damn.
He sounds like a porn star.
He's Mr. Bang. Yeah. And, like, he bangs, man. All right. So... I went into the show not knowing a lot, and what surprised me at first was that we're going episode by episode now.
Sure.
All right. Episode 1 is pretty much a period piece. All right.
Yeah.
And instantly I was thrown off. I was like, wait,
really?
Are they just... Yeah, because I was surprised that they were doing
I immediately guessed exactly how this thing would play out.
Yeah?
Timeline-wise. Of like, we're going to jump through time. Because that's exactly what Sherlock did.
Sherlock didn't jump through time.
He didn't start in the Victorian era, but he does do that. Like I think season 2 or 3, there's an episode.
Correct.
The ghost of so and so, whatever. Yes. I mean, it's in that wheelhouse.
They are very timey-wimey
being
people.
Dracula, it's like okay, you have to set. There's got to be a castle at some point. There's got to be some medievalness about it. And then it's inevitable.
But it plays it fairly straight, right? Like, the original story of Dracula is about a lawyer named Jonathan Harker who turns up at Count Dracula's castle.
Is it?
Yeah.
So reviews tell me that, yes, they were very on the ball with, like, being...
I mean, essentially what they've done...
Dropping references to actual
Correct.
Dracula
It's exactly the Sherlock formula again. They take the story, and then they use that as stuff they thread throughout. So the first episode being a period piece, for a long time, right? I thought... Maybe you start out with like, all right, Count Dracula back in the day, and now it's like, hey, Dracula is a modern dude.
Yeah.
They just stuck with it.
Yeah, it was
the
great.
entire thing is...
Really
it begins with a very creepy, disgusting version of Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
Who is like, well, clearly going through something because flies are walking into his eye.
Yep.
God damn it, that was freaky. That's also in the trailer.
Yeah. Speaking of Jonathan Harker in that first episode, same coming back to the Eastern European voice and how we're used to hearing it, the antagonists and like Nazis and all that kind of stuff for the most part. He looked like somebody that had escaped from Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And was being interrogated by somebody who you would think is being like, oh, like I was thinking of like Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards talking to him. I thought like this power dynamic could be kind of like that because for the first half an hour of that thing, you don't know who's on whose side here, right? And so, just another small little detail that I gushed over quite a bit.
It was really nicely done. The first twist, alright, so now we're going to start spoiling this stuff slightly. But the first twist, essentially, is that Sister Agatha, who's been interrogating Jonathan Harker, trying to figure out what happened to him in Count Dracula's castle, towards the end, is revealed as being Agatha Van Helsing. Who is, of course, the world-famous vampire hunter.
Hugh Jackman, yeah.
Yeah. Second only to Abraham Lincoln. The two greatest vampire hunters, Abraham Lincoln, vampire hunter, and Van Helsing, vampire hunter. But yeah, anyway, she is interrogating Jonathan Harker, trying to figure out what happened. So within this period piece, we have a flashback to Jonathan Harker going to Count Dracula's castle. And I thought that entire sequence was really well done in the sense that it was super cheesy in a lot of parts. Yep. Like Count Dracula, when you first see him, is literally like a haggard-looking old dude walking around with... Again,
he looked like Filch.
Yes, he looked very Filch. Yeah. And he was doing his classic Eastern European accent. Like, come in, Jonathan Harker. Right?
What was that?
Jonathan Harker.
Okay.
Well, but as he, and we obviously know who Count Dracula is and that he likes sipping the blood. So as the episode goes on, without saying as much, You see him slowly transform into like a younger, more suave dude. I thought that was awesome. That was really well done. So like literally every scene you cut him, and there's no telegraphing of this. So I think in that way they don't underestimate how smart their audience is. They just go like, this guy's in Count Dracula's castle. Cut to the next scene. He's pretty much unrecognizable, and he sounds like slightly more sharp and young. And cut to like 2 scenes later, and he's like this super suave, like James Bondish dude from back in the day.
Yep.
Really nicely done. And this is possibly the most horror-ish of the episodes, I would say, because it's got the most classically horror visuals.
Yes.
I feel.
Yes.
I mean, of course, every episode has a fair amount of gore in the sense of like blood drinking and biting and whatnot.
Right.
But this one has undead people walking around, things like those flies walking into people's eyes.
Yeah.
Fairly freaky. And as the episode goes on, obviously, we find out that Dracula is now a young suave dude because he's been sipping the blood of Jonathan Harker. And what I really liked from this, again, more spoilers this point on, because this is like an hour into the episode,
right,
where he finally reaches the convent that Agatha is at and confronts her.
Probably the strongest moment in the entire
I thought it was really good. It's an extended sequence.
I loved it.
Yeah, where they're just like talking to each other across like...
and that's why these guys shine, I think, the most, Moffat and Gatiss.
Yeah.
Because the Van Helsing Dracula thing is in the vein of your Holmes and...
Watson.
Nope. Moriarty.
Moriarty.
Your Holmes and Moriarty, your Batman and Joker. It's like it's the cat and mouse game that you never want to end.
Yeah.
And the great thing about, like, I think the reason that they stuck the landing so brilliantly with the Holmes show is because these guys are really great with just witty banter back and forth.
Correct.
They're really good with just just 2 people in a room chatting back and forth. This always really fun. And if you have a brilliant mind like a Holmes versus Moriarty, then there's no end to the wit.
Yeah.
Right? And in this case, I love the fact that you had the same level of I'm smarter than you are, but how do I put it? It felt like I was watching what I really would have wanted, both the Neil Gaiman shows that I've seen, American Gods and Good Omens, right? You're taking a biblical context for a very traditional David versus Goliath kind of or not David versus Goliath, but like a... just Black Knight versus White Knight kind of a thing. And
two brilliant minds. And 2 equals, yeah.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, just having Dracula on the outside of the gates and her just standing there and them just playing ping pong with each other was the coolest thing ever. And the fact that, like, the dude's butt-ass naked and, just come out of a wolf.
Yeah.
Does it, like, nobody's batting an eyelid at this.
Yeah.
And it's a real testament to their commitment to going all the way at all times and not apologizing for it. And Sherlock, I think, could at times get a little tedious because I think they had to do things like jump through different eras in Sherlock just because as endearing as the characters are, their setting and their context was, for lack of a better word, predictable because there was nothing, other than the fact that he's wearing a coat, a Victorian era coat, he's very much a modern day man.
Yeah.
So there's nothing about the Sherlock world that I thought that sticks out to me as like the really cool, appealing thing. I want to live in that world. But in the Dracula world, what I love is that literally anything can happen with regard to a zombie popping out or jumping ahead to like the 3rd episode, you have people that are burnt alive and can't really tell that they're burnt alive unless you look in the middle. Like it's all over the place. It's so campy and so out there.
Yeah.
In the vein of so many things we love, like a lot of fantasy and science fiction, where it's just like you're looking at an absurd visual, but it's grounded by the fact that the writing is really like it takes itself far more seriously than you think it ever would, and that endears me to it because they're not backfooting on it. They're not second guessing themselves.
They're not using it as an excuse to like just joke about the concept in general.
Yeah, they're saying like this looks weird as hell. I know it, but that's not going to stop me from having really good character back and forth of people who are just super true to their convictions. And so like I got a lot of the best aspects of Sherlock and not too many of the little squibs that we can, the nitpicky things that we can pick at with Sherlock. To its benefit, I will say, is the fact that this type of a what's the word I'm looking for? this type of a dynamic.
Yeah.
Well, this type of a dynamic of like the two guys that you never want to see an ending to the story of.
Right.
The good thing that they have to their advantage is, unlike in a Sherlock where it has to be about a case, right? Yes, it's Sherlock versus Moriarty, but it's also, each episode is about Sherlock trying to figure out random neutral third parties mystery, right?
Sure.
And Moriarty always intervenes somehow.
Yeah.
This is purely about A versus B, and everything that happens around them is completely by the way.
Right.
It's like there will be a lot of casualties, there will be a lot of fire and brimstone, there will be a lot of, ghouls and ghosts and all that, but it's just about the two of us. And that is something that Sherlock doesn't have to its advantage. Like, I think we love when Sherlock and Moriarty get a moment together, but it's always this is a great bonus to the episode. But this whole show is just the two of them.
It is.
And then everything that happens around them is extra fluff.
In many ways, I would say this is everything Moffat and Gatiss like to do in a concentrated dosage, essentially, because it has all the hallmarks of exactly what they do every time. They love the idea of a brilliant mind that confronts another brilliant mind. And they love the idea that maybe the two will make sexy time. That was the case with Sherlock and Moriarty. That's the case here as well. Like, there's this constant hint of like, you are so smart. I'm kind of into that. And of course, people love that about Sherlock and Moriarty. And in this case, again, like Dracula's entire thing, it has always been very sexy time. Vampires have always been. I
knew I was going to like this show when I think like 10 minutes into it, or not even 10 minutes into it, maybe like less than 5 minutes into it. One of the first things that Agatha asks Jonathan is, did you have sexual relationships with the...
Yeah, like straight away.
What? This is great.
And he's like, you're a nun, lady, don't ask me that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That was great. Like, and I don't know. It was just, it's beautifully weird. I love it.
Yeah, she's so upfront and witty that sometimes it seems almost like, it seems anachronistic. Like, it doesn't seem like a woman who was a nun in the 1600s or whatever would be talking that way. But overall it works. So yes, let's take a break and we'll come back and now dissect the other two episodes. I think we've given our overall thesis and impressions of the show. So we'll come back and get into spoiler territory.
Hey everybody, welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week. Thank you HDFC Life for coming on board. We're really excited to work with you. Also would like to thank Storytel for continuing the long time advertising that they've been doing with us. And if you have a brand and you'd like to advertise with us, please send us an email. We'd love to talk to you. Also, folks, please fill out our listener survey. This is the last week it's going to be up. I'm going to take it down at the end of January. Please do try and get your opinion in before then. It is kind of important and it helps us kind of figure out what we should be doing going forward. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by actor Manvi Gagru, who talks about her upcoming film Shubh Mangal Zyada Saudhan, working on TVF's popular web series Pictures and how talent show brought her from Delhi to Mumbai. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to film critic Sucharita Tyagi, known for the popular Not a Review film series on Film Companion. On Agla Station Adulthood, Ritasha asks Ayushi 36 questions. On Mr. and Mrs. Binge Watch, Janice and Anirudh talk about Season 2 of Netflix's hit show You. On Geek Fruit, Tejas, Jishnu and Dinkar talk about Netflix's Dracula series. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav decodes the secrets hidden behind different doors. On IVM Likes, Abbas, Ritika and Antarish talk about their favorite depictions of heaven, hell and the afterlife in pop culture. On Edges and Sledges, DJ, Ashwin and Varun talk about India bouncing back from a 10-wicket thrashing at Wankhede. On Ganatantra's one-year anniversary episode, hosts Alok and Saryu talk about police reform and why it's so hard. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
All right, welcome back. We are now going to get into spoiler territory. This is your final warning. So, Jishnu, let's get to episode 2. All right? What do you think?
I enjoyed the pseudo Agatha Christie, no pun intended, vibe of that. It's not something we've seen.
What is the pun you were going for there?
My name is Agatha, Baba.
Oh,
this is not a hard one.
Yeah, okay. I forgot about that part. Well, just two people
We've only been saying her name like 20 times already.
Two people having the same name is not a pun. Like, you meet someone like Jishnu, you're like, sorry, pun intended? No.
Yes.
What?
I've never met another Jishnu.
But there are so many.
I've never met... No, I met one.
Okay.
I didn't like him.
Why?
Because... Who does he think he is?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah, exactly.
You're my favorite, Jishnu.
I am also.
Actually, wait, no. Okay, yeah, fine. I'll give you a favorite. By a hair. By a nose hair, you're my favorite, Jishnu. Anyway, second episode is set entirely on a ship. Now, another, like the middle section of the Dracula stories, of course, him going from Transylvania to the New World. And this is exactly that. So our Klaus Bang Dracula gets onto a ship with 8 other passengers, I want to say.
Something like that, yeah.
Right? And
Or
obviously,
9, because room number 9?
possibly
would mean
9,
there
but
are
basically
9
a limited set of passengers.
Something like that.
And they slowly start dying off.
Yeah.
And all of this is set in a situation that is, well, hard to explain. At the end of the first episode, Dracula has essentially defeated Agatha, right? He's gotten into her vampire fighting space, like that little basement where she has all her things. And he's, like, for all we know, captured her. And yet, in this episode, we begin with the two of them playing a game of chess.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, what's happened? Have we jumped ahead in time?
It was
and
very,
now...
it was very Matrix.
It
was very
was.
Neo meets Architect.
Kind of. So, like, the entire time they're talking in this very friendly way, as if they, like, essentially, like, they're this very...
Perfect. Great minds doing
like
what they
they're
do.
a couple, pretty much. Again, the classic great minds who like sexy times.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So
I love when you talk chess to me.
Yes.
Yes.
It was so good. I really like their banter there and them cutting back to the thing. So, it's like he's telling her the story as if he's telling her about a puzzle and going like, well, can you figure this part out?
Yeah.
And, well, that's, again... the classic distilled version of everything these guys like to do. Now, the entire section on the ship itself, the story, was, I thought, absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
It's cheesy, again, in the classic vampire story kind of way.
Tropies all over the place.
Full
But
of the tropies.
Yeah.
But, man, again, just like so well structured and so well done. Now, what happens halfway through this episode, further spoilers, is that, throughout the story, there's been this mystery guest who's ill, who's locked in room number 9 on the ship, cabin number 9. And Agatha says, well, you were hiding out in cabin number 9 to Dracula. And he says, oh no, that wasn't me. That was someone else. And she goes like, what? Who's this mystery guest who's never seen? And it turns out halfway through the episode that it's her.
The guest was inside her all along.
The guest was inside her all along. And this entire chess sequence has basically been what she's dreaming while he drinks her blood. Because another trope is that when Dracula drinks people's blood, they essentially enter into this...
fever dream.
Yeah, a fever dream where they have real conversations with him, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is when she comes to life and then starts fighting back with the rest of the crew. And that lady is freaking badass, man. She killed it in this episode.
Good.
It was fantastic.
So good. I love this woman.
Yeah.
I will admit that at the end of episode 1, in the moment, I was a little, I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but I was taken aback with how they chose to end it. Because I assumed, being a Moffat and Gatiss thing, and 3 90-minute episodes, I was expecting to be, the first episode is Transylvania, the next one is going to be maybe 100 years later, which not exactly 100 years later, but I mean, it's forward in time. I thought it was going to be 3 separate things, where in which maybe the same cast comes back, but they have new names or whatever. Yeah, that kind of vibe.
Like story of the week kind of situation.
Sort of. Yeah. So when the second episode begins with, it's literally just the next couple of weeks, months of the linear timeline. I was taken aback by it, but then third episode does jump 300 or 100 and something, or 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I love how that worked. In the moment, though, I was a little taken aback by that because I loved how the first episode was wrapping up, especially the confrontation at the gates was amazing, and then the fact that he got in, I was like, okay, this is you're gonna end this. You have to end this really soon because it's been 90 minutes. So where's what else you got left? I was very pleased that she was able to continue once we do get the reveal that she is the guest in room number 9, and she comes back and she helps the rest of the passengers fight back. She picks up right where she left off with regard to her volition to kick back at him.
Yeah.
Because the pacing and the just the character's arc for the first half of that episode, Agatha's arc, is so different than what it is in episode 1, right?
Yeah.
It's actually, it mirrors her arc in episode 1 a lot in that it's like the first half is her having a conversation with somebody. In the first episode is Jonathan. Second episode it's Dracula himself. Exact same setting, at a table across from each other, just shooting the shit, trying to figure out what's going on. And then both episodes end with face off in front of a barrier that cannot be broken.
Yeah,
and it's just banter.
And in this case, the barrier
was,
was
cool.
a string of pages from the Bible, a circle of pages from the Bible, actually, I should say.
So, as much as we love, our movies to rhyme, I thought that this did that really well as well. It's two very similar types of execution with regard to the narrative. Just context switches up. In the first case, it's very insular. It's about just one character's journey. The second one is about a group of people being haunted by some sort of whodunit, ghost, ghoulie thing that they can't identify. But they both climaxed really well in a consistent manner. So like it was just this whole show is something that I found very, what's the word? Manageable, palatable. It was like it was a perfect meal. It didn't feel overstuffed. It didn't feel understuffed. Yeah. And I think we've been going through a time in TV at the moment where a lot of shows go on a little too long, or they tend to meander somewhere in the middle, and then you realize, oh, they had just one good idea, but they had to, for whatever reason, they had to add masala into the middle, and something veens off.
You see that fairly
These guys
often.
are so consistent with that. They're so consistent at keeping it just the right amount and not letting it go too far. You're right. Like there are things you can always nitpick at, but it never lasts long.
I believe that they've done it particularly well this time because it's a very clearly structured and thought through story. Yeah. In fact, exactly what you're saying is, I feel, what became the issue with Sherlock towards the end, where they kept constantly trying to top themselves and then went into like some fairly wild directions where they were like, all right, and now how about this twist? Yeah. And you're like, I get it, whatever, just like make some fun cases, man. Yeah. It doesn't all have to be like a big story, because they were constantly trying to build on something, right? And they had a lot of material to draw on. So there was always the thing of like, all right, this is the Sherlock mystery that we're going to spin into something new and modern this time. In this case, there is a clear like set story to the Dracula mythology, and they stuck to exactly that pretty much. So there's a clear beginning, middle, and end in sight, right? In a lot of ways. And I doubt there's going to be like a season 2 or anything of this. This is a mini series where
there is
like,
speculation of course.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, we'll deal with that when it comes to it. But while Sherlock 1 was essentially like episodic stuff with one big reveal at the end where they were like, all right, all of this was tied together by one person.
What was, remind me of the season 1 big reveal of Sherlock?
That there was a dude called Moriarty.
He's only revealed at the end of season 1?
Yeah. Isn't it at the end of season 1 when that dude is dying and he goes like, Moriarty! And he dies?
Yeah?
Yeah.
I forget.
Yes, okay. I'm pretty sure that was it. It was a long time ago.
It was ages ago.
Sherlock was like, what, 10 years ago?
Almost 10 years ago, yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, so I think the benefit of having a very clearly laid out story to work with really helped in this case. And, well, there might be speculation of a season 2, but it could easily stop here and we're good. Right? Yeah. Wait, how can there be a season 2 given how it ended? We are spoiling it, so it ends with everybody dying, essentially.
Right, which is great, because that doesn't happen nearly enough these days.
Yeah.
People end, wow, that's incredible.
It's just this in Rogue One.
Yeah. The speculation at the moment is, at the end of episode 2, everybody blows up in the ship, right?
Right.
And it's like the Titanic story. But Dracula being Dracula, he can come back 100 years later because he's like, he was just sleeping. Cool, he's Dracula, he sleeps, it's fine. All right, fair enough. People are speculating that Agatha, since she had been bitten, she also is vampirical. Yeah. So why can't she also just be asleep?
Oh, I didn't think of that. Right? Yeah, I suppose she doesn't die exactly.
Well, we don't see her die.
Yeah.
Like she was blown up into a million pieces probably, unless being a bride of Dracula, you also get to not blow up into a million pieces. Because that was the one thing that they didn't address. The fact that there was an explosion. I would get if you you were in your coffin and you just sunk and people assumed that you would just drown and die. Yeah. But I was like, there was like gunpowder and stuff. Wouldn't he have...
Maybe he was able to heal?
Again, he's Dracula, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But with her,
you can always
this is where it's like, it's a little like, you better write this pretty damn well if you're going to try and pull this off. Because you can forgive so many things because Dracula is the supernatural. But it's like...
He's a Dracula.
He is the Dracula. So if it's Agatha, she's Van Helsing, so she is... cool, but does she have regen? Is she Wolverine? Like,
I hope they don't do that. She's not Wolverine. Yeah. Jackman was Wolverine. But I hope they don't do this, because also another thing is, this is entirely pretty much set up on the idea of twisting all the classic vampire lore. So like the fact that he can't see himself in a mirror, or that he's scared of the cross, or that he can't step out in sunlight. All of that is kind of explained in these, well, I wouldn't say scientific, but they try to attach this like modern reasoning to it. So they go like, well, this is why he can't step into daylight. This is why he's afraid of crosses. In fact, like the big crux of the story is why Dracula is afraid of crosses in the first place. And the entire reveal in the last episode kind of hinges on that. So let's take another break and we'll come back and discuss the final installment.
Advertising is dead. Yep, you heard me right. Advertising is dead. We're all in the content business now. Let's not call it news, TV, radio, etc., etc. It's all content, and we're in the middle of this weirdly exciting phase where all the borders and lines that have been drawn over decades has been swept away by this lovely thing called the internet. We're a show where we don't dwell on just the stuff that is now, but rather the wider stuff about advertising, media, content, and the whole goddamn circus surrounding it. Tune in every Tuesday for our weekly unboxing of the mystery box we used to call advertising. I'm Varun Dugirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and this is my new podcast, Advertising is Dead.
Alright, Jishnu, we're back, and it's 120 years later, man.
23.
123 years later. How you been? How you feeling?
Tired.
Yeah?
It's been a while, man.
You're tired, huh?
Yeah.
Right. Do you need a drink? Do you need some fresh drink to revive you?
What if I said no?
Well, then you'd ruin my entire joke. I was going for your Dracula, but fine.
So the third episode, pretty great.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that...
What do you think when the twist happened in episode 2, by the way? Because at that point, I was like, all right, they're clearly doing like a period piece, but with a modern twist. And then that reveal happened where essentially at the end, the ship blows up and you're like, okay, what's happening? But Dracula wakes up, comes to the shore, and there's the sound of a helicopter. And I was like, wait a second.
It was inevitable.
Yeah. I
was like, aha,
I
there
don't
it
even
is.
see it. I totally thought they were going to stick the entire landing and
I expected that to happen at the end of episode 1 or the beginning of episode 2.
Oh, they convinced me. I was like, you're not good. You're trying to do something different this time.
I'll tell you, there were two precise moments where I face palmed and laughed my ass off. One is that, not face palmed like in a bad way. It was just like, of course. I was like, there it friggin' is. It's like the inevitable eventually happening. So one was the helicopter and the jump in time, and the second was, of course, text messaging and frickin'.
That's, again, a classic Moffat Gatiss trope.
Like, guys, we get this. It's like...
Everyone does the textings.
Yeah, no, it's like friggin' lens flares to Abrams is texting to Moffat and Gatiss.
Of course
it's like,
is.
okay, you have to have these words in flying across your screen.
It makes a lot of sense because most communication is texting now. But
that's fine. It's just like, it's just so in your face. It's like, I get it, dude. It's like, before in Sherlock, it was cool and it was new and it was quick. And now, I remember this one particular scene... in episode 3 where I'm forgetting her name, the girl that he's in love with.
Oh, the one who dealt with the scandal in Bohemia.
Yes?
Yeah.
In what?
You're talking about the lady Sherlock loves, no?
No. In this show, in Dracula.
Oh, the lady who loves?
Dracula. The one that he falls in love with, the one at the end.
Oh, in the third episode.
The third episode. The one who gets burnt.
I totally lost track of what you were saying.
Gets incinerated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name.
Whatever her name is. So her...
But also a character from the book.
Yes. Her and her gay friend. Mm-hmm. They're sitting in a hotel room. They're on the bed and she's texting. And... it's a very slow text conversation. It's like all of like 2 or 3 texts back and forth between her and Dracula being like, will I see you tonight? Yes, I will. Cool. I'll be there in 5. That's basically all it is.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they decided as she moves, we're going to freaking motion track these words to her phone and just keep it zooming. I was like, guy, there's no need.
Stick it in one place. Put it in a box at the bottom.
There's no need for this. Yeah. Like she can just lock her phone. She said, I'll see you then 5 and gave thumbs up. Just close the damn thing. Why are these words still?
There is also
it's like my OCD about subtitles on steroids. It's like you've taken the subtitles and you're now
moving them all
washing them all over the screen.
Another great moment from that exact same conversation is when Dracula texts her a vampire emoji.
Yeah, great.
Oh Lord. This third episode, I will say, is funnest and I would say for me possibly the weakest. I'll tell you why. I feel like the first one was a very classical story, but with a lot of twists and spins on it, which is classic Moffat and Gatiss.
Twists and spins on the context, or you mean twists and spins in the story? Twists and spins on the classic
of the classic Dracula story, right? So they, and
like they
I thought it was
revamped the
really
classic traditional style.
Exactly. And they're all somewhat self-contained in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like the first one, for all, I mean, in theory, could end at the beat it does end on, except for the fact that you know the story will be continuing at some point.
I don't know if the third one can stand on its own, though. Like you definitely couldn't watch it on its own.
Exactly. I feel like that's maybe the start of the issue. So essentially, when we reach the third one, we find out that a descendant of Van Helsing's, whose name I also don't remember. What Van Helsing is she? Zoe Van Helsing. Yeah. Right. So Zoe Van Helsing, who looks exactly like Agatha Van Helsing, is now the new Dracula hunter. But, and this is where we go into like full on like screw everything that's gone before territory. Yeah. There is now an entire organization set up by Jonathan Harker's fiancée from 120 years ago that has been built entirely to stop Dracula. They've been doing research for more than 100 years, all to stop one guy in case he returns.
But see, this is the one thing that felt a little, you dropped the ball a bit there. He's been dead for 100 and something years.
Yeah.
I loved the, continuing Jonathan Harker's name, foundation made by his widow. Great. I love that. That makes complete sense to me. But I was like, you guys have been working around the clock for 123 years, preparing for the apocalypse when the apocalypse has ended. You know what I mean?
In theory.
Yeah, so like, nothing about his death told them that he was coming back.
Yeah.
Everybody was stunned that he came back. And it's, to their advantage that they were ready for him when they came back. But I didn't quite buy, like, the level of prep that they had. They literally built, like, a magneto plastic cage for him, like with the friggin' prism that moves with the sun. I was like, yo. This guy's been dead for...
It's built up a little too much.
Yeah, like that was a little too perfect for me.
Yeah.
But, hey.
And you're telling me this all... I mean, it's a logical nitpick in a way, but the thing is, the story doesn't justify it enough, right?
Exactly,
they just go we always knew he'd come back. And we're like, well, why? Explain in some way. They're just like, no, we knew. I'm telling you, And for some reason, this foundation has existed the entire time. And what happens after that is what really threw it off for me. Mark Gatiss now enters the show. Again, he loves...
So good.
He's a pretty good actor.
I like him.
He comes in playing a bit of a, sad sack of a lawyer who comes in and says, well, Dracula hasn't committed any crime, so you have to let him go. Yeah. And they let him go. Yeah. What? You're telling me this organization has existed for 120 years to fight Dracula, and the lawyer says, I need to get him out, and they're like, yeah, sure. Why?
They have all these resources with no legal team.
And what would that legal team do? You're telling me that they'd go to court and Dracula would say, actually, I haven't committed any crime. And the judge would go like, oh, wait a second, who are you? And he's like, I'm Count Dracula, born 300 years ago or whatever. He's gone. He's out. He's thrown in jail. Well, where's his ID proof, huh? He has no ID proof.
Does he have a KYC?
Does he have a KYC? He's not even a citizen of the country. He's from Transylvania. So, and yet, this entire secretive organization with all the power in the world just goes like, he's got us there. Fine, let Dracula go. I guess we spent the last 123 years doing all this shit for nothing.
But on the flip side, they went equally bombastic with the lengths of which they can go to now to thwart the supreme entity that is Dracula, right? Because before, in Transylvania in the 1800s, what are you going to do? You're screwed. The best you got is a really big sword. Well, too bad, because this guy will turn a bunch of bats and become a wolf and fly around you, and your sword is meaningless. I love that here she's like, yo, I want you out of the house. I got a bulldozer. Boom. He's like, what the tits is this?
That was insane.
So there are tons of moments in the third episode that made it enjoyable enough for me, even though you're right, the logical sensibility of the show kind of crumbled at that point.
Yeah.
But they doubled down on their weirdness of it. I was like, great, cool. If your logic is out the window, then you need to have all the fun in the world.
That is
and the third episode is the most quote unquote fun.
Absolutely. I think it is definitely the most fun. It's clearly the one that they were having the most fun with as well, and some of the jokes are just straight up hilarious. Sometimes they don't even make sense. Like Dracula managed to call his lawyer through the internet. He's like, I Skyped him.
Yeah, you gave me an iPad. I did Skype. I was like, wow, you figured out Gmail accounts and all that.
I know. He's a quick learner, I suppose. That was also the justification of that, for example.
But if I just, quick aside. It kind of makes sense because I know 4-year-olds who can figure out an iPad faster than a 70-year-old.
Yeah.
Who has lived through the computer age.
Yeah.
But a 4-year-old who doesn't know his right hand from his ass can figure out how an iPad works because
Correct.
it's just like press the thing and the thing will happen.
Have you seen that video of I think it was a chimpanzee scrolling through Instagram? He's genuinely scrolling through Instagram, exactly like we do.
Did he comment and troll?
Well, I saw him do a bunch of heart reacts, but yeah. And then people were like, oh my god, look how dumb humans are. Even chimpanzees do this. I was like, no, that actually means that the UI of Instagram is really
It's
good.
really good.
Yeah, it's so intuitive. Even the chimp can understand it.
Right.
Think of it the other way. Anyway, yeah. So like the joke there, where he's like, where Zoe goes like, wait, who gave him the Wi-Fi password?
It's like, it's my name.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Hilarious. But again, it feels like if I sum up each episode in like the like I said, the first one was this spin on a classic story.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was a very self-contained mystery box kind of piece. Really well done. In the third one, it feels like the thematic relevance of the first one and the tight structure of the second one are both kind of gone, and it totally flips to like, let's just do a bunch of fun stuff with Dracula this time.
Yes. Which also left...
Which I was on board for, by the way, up till a certain point.
Okay, well, maybe tell me if this is the same point for you, because I started losing the brevity of the show a little bit when they gave so much importance to, and I can't remember her name, this tells you how much...
Yes.
A brand new lady that, for whatever reason, which I want to know how you understood their explanation, because I don't quite have a full grasp on it, as to why he was so enamored by this woman. And I hope I'm not offending anybody when I say this, but my understanding of it was, oh, she's just super kinky and is a bit of like a sadist or a masochist or a bit of both. And that's why he really liked her? Because
First
she was...
of all, I am offended.
Is that it? Was that it? Was that the...
No. So this
Please
is where it
explain it.
falls
I
apart
didn't
for me.
follow.
Well, that is illustrative of exactly my issue with this last act of the show, right?
Yeah.
They didn't quite nail the big theme they were going for. And the entire episode, and in retrospect, the series was kind of building towards this idea of what these guys essentially think of the current generation. So why he's enamored by her is because she's a millennial who don't give an F, essentially. I believe that's the commentary they were going for throughout.
Keep going.
So like Dracula throughout has kind of thrived on the idea that everyone is terrified of him. And that's what gives him a thrill, right? He's like, everybody's scared of me. I will prey on them and I will drink their blood.
Right.
This time, when he finds a lady who is pretty much she's the epitome of everything you would say is like a typical millennial. She doesn't give an F about anything. She's like a nihilist, all right? That enchants Dracula because he's like, I've never seen anything like this. I've been alive for centuries, and in this generation, a person like this is not only not scared of me, but actively is like embracing death. So basically they're building on this idea of like, look at this millennial burnout generation. They don't care about anything. And Dracula, as someone from the past, is like completely blown away by this. In fact, I think he says at some point, he's like, wait, I forget what he says.
Very
exactly.
early in the episode when he talks about
how much the world has changed?
About how, like, I know kings and lords that would never leave this room.
Exactly,
when he's in, like, some very...
By the way, I thought that sequence was fantastic.
It was awesome, the
opening well
sequence. Yeah.
And I wish they'd done more of that. But essentially, as soon as this character entered it, first of all, she's
when you explain it like this makes sense to me. I like this idea.
Yeah.
But
clearly it
didn't translate for me.
Exactly.
I just took it as she's super kinky, doesn't care. Like, I got that she doesn't care about dying. That's her own issues. But with regard to enjoying the pain and enjoying the suffering, I was like, I guess she's what is she, like, just into BDSM? Is that what's going on? Like, you just found somebody that's like, I really didn't get why. Like, none of the explanations made sense enough.
Because I don't think they actually come out through the show. Like, possibly this is me reading into it, but I'm pretty sure, especially knowing how these guys typically are, that is what they intended, at least. They wanted to say, essentially in so many words, look at these kids. Kind of. Yes. Perhaps not in a judgmental way,
sure.
But that is kind of what the theme of the show is. Like, an old school character like Dracula would be absolutely thrown off by what was happening in the world today. It made a lot of sense to me in that first sequence, again, very horror movie-ish, where he walks in having killed some poor lady's husband. And when she walks down, she sees him just like staring at the TV.
Yeah.
And she's like, where's my husband? And he's like back there. And she's
in
like,
the box.
In the box, yeah. And she's like the fridge? And he's like, is that the big white box? And He's like, yeah, well, in that. And he's watching TV, looking at videos of the sun.
He's watching Circle of Life.
Yeah, he's watching Circle of Life, essentially. Again, really funny, but also very thematically relevant, right? You're talking about how a guy out of time would deal with it.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's why I still enjoyed the ending, even though we'll get to the very final moments as well.
Yeah.
I liked, again, the funness of Man Out of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are always fun. It's very. Have you ever seen Encino Man starring Brendan Fraser?
No.
It's a great movie. It's him and Sean Astin, and he's a Neanderthal in ice.
Right.
And Sean Astin's a high school.
Unfrozen.
He's a high school kid in the 90s, and he finds a Neanderthal in his swimming pool.
Right.
And it's just Brendan Fraser being a caveman, and Sean Astin takes him to high school, and he's like, "Hey, like my new friend Linkovich Chomovsky, because he's the missing link."
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
nice.
Point is,
that sounds fun. Actually,
it's such a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so seeing Dracula just figuring out the world in itself, I'll watch that movie.
Fun, hilarious.
It's Baby's Day Out, but it's Dracula.
Yes.
So it was really, really fun. But then, the poignant moments in the third episode,
the thematic weight they were going for.
Yeah, it just didn't fit. So, cut to the chase.
Yeah.
We're at the end. Zoe meets Agatha, and they kind of mind meld together.
Yeah. They drink each other's blood.
Yeah, I'm in it for that. I liked that
blood is
Zoe,
lives.
Zoe took the call to drink his blood because she has nothing left to lose because she has cancer. Cool, I'm with it. This all makes sense to me. But now we're at the final moments. Okay.
Another odd thing.
Go on.
He drinks Zoe's blood and starts coughing it up because it's poisoned him because she has cancer.
Yeah.
Like what? You never dealt with anyone with cancer back in the day?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then it's the same deal as like you never met a nihilist before this woman. Like I'm sure there were people
because people before didn't have phones.
Yeah,
you see.
exactly. Yeah,
They didn't have the Instagrams.
It's like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
So I forgave the you never met a
fair
cancer
enough.
patient before.
It's an acceptable loophole.
Cool. So I'll take that. But now we're at the final moments where it's again our showrunners at their strongest.
Yeah.
2 people or 2.5 with that other guy, the guy who truly loved the burning woman.
Correct. Yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
But point is, it's mainly Zoe and
All
Dracula.
of them characters who are in the book in some way, in the original story. Yeah.
So we're finally at the end, it's just 2 of them shooting the shit in one room together.
Yeah.
Right? And it's all about, I figured out why you're scared of the sun. I figured out why you're scared of the cross and all that.
Yeah.
Why is he scared of the sun? Why is he scared of the cross? I don't know.
Well, that's where I
don't
think that thematic relevance really comes in, right? The entire final sequence in Dracula's high-rise modern villain sort of lair is, first of all, for a long time anchored by this new lady we met like 20 minutes ago whose character doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this lady so important?
Right.
But essentially, it's about her vanity and the fact that she's not scared of death, but when she finally dies, she is scared of it. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to, I think, turn that reveal into the reveal of what Dracula is scared of. He's scared of crosses, he's scared of daylight, and he's scared of like the Bible or whatever. All of this because he's scared of not dying. You see?
No.
Well, that's the problem. That's what they were trying to say. Essentially, what she reveals in a really stupid and hilarious moment is she pushes him into the sunlight, or like she
does a slow motion like Tom Cruise running sequence and like
throws open the
drapes.
thingy. Yeah.
But also it's like that was I can forgive the cancer, I can forgive the millennials, I can forgive a whole lot of things. But I was just like, this is this guy's house.
Yes.
He's been standing right next to you this entire evening. He didn't see the sun is coming up.
Also, why does he have like drapes in the first place? Why don't he just like
get blackout curtains, bro?
Yeah.
But you built this house,
Come
put
on,
no
dude.
windows.
Yeah.
Why do you had the call to do whatever you want? Yeah. You build your own Bond villain lair, and you had drapes that any idiot can just pull aside and kill you.
Apparently, including like ladies who are on the verge of dying. So the sunlight hits him, and in this like great shot, he falls to the floor, and in slow motion, you see his face going like ah and stuff. Then it cuts like this wide, and he looks around, and he's like, wait, hold on. I haven't disintegrated into dust.
Yeah.
Does sunlight not affect me? Yeah. And that's when she says, you're scared of living forever without honor. Everyone in your family was a great person who died in like some greater cause, and you're just an idiot who's going to live forever.
This is the same dilemma as Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Quite literally. He's Lieutenant Dracula. And I was like, this is what you were trying to say. It's a great twist, the fact that, like, I appreciate what they were going
The sentiment.
for. Yes.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't translate both in the way they did it and in the way they tried to telegraph it through other characters, through this, like, blue fur lady character who burns herself. No, who's cremated.
That's her name, right? Oh, that's...
As in, like, that's what the kids call her.
Yeah.
Blue fur lady.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful lady. I think that twist kind of wasn't justified by everything they'd done up to that point.
In the first episode, didn't Harker at one point fry him a little bit when they're on the ledge right before he kills
That's
Harker?
how he gets away.
Because he got burnt by the sun, right?
Yes.
So the sun does burn him when it's convenient.
The explanation now is that all of this was psychosomatic.
Oh,
Dracula
like
just imagined himself being burned by the sun. He was just scared of the cross because he had internalized this fear of not dying so much.
Like you believed the lie that it became a truth. But at the end of the day, it's a lie. So like, oh, right, yeah, it never was true.
Yeah, so he's scared of the cross because it represents death, and he's scared of the sunlight because it represents life, or whatever the explanation she gives at the end. Really, like,
drop the ball.
Off,
But here's one thing I did like. Even though I didn't like how they did it, the definitive ending of Van Helsing and, like, literally Batman and Joker, if they have to end, they got to go out together.
That also didn't make sense to me.
It didn't make sense.
It would have made sense
No,
at a point. Say after episode 2, it would have been amazing.
Completely.
This episode,
did not make sense. But that being said, I love that these guys decided, no, we're going to end this. We know we're good at this.
Yeah.
But we're going to end it.
This might be the first time they've actually got their brilliant minds to do sexy time.
Yeah.
But they blew them up for it.
That's fine.
Like, it literally ends with them, like, naked spooning each other while it explodes.
Earlier, I said this is the better version of the Neil Gaiman type of things that I've seen. American Gods and that one. And
Good Omens.
Good Omens. Both those shows, I finished them. But when they end, or finished the season, but when they end, I got no closure. All I get is a tease for more. And I was like, yo, I wasn't even with you. I wasn't happy with what I got up till now. There's no chance I'm continuing with you. This one, I had a great time for like 80% of it. 20% towards the end was like really fizzling out and just kind of confusing to me.
Place,
But at least you ended it.
Yeah.
So I applaud you for knowing when to call it. I applaud you for knowing when to call it quits. And be like, quit while you're ahead. You're good. That's
fine. Why I was bothered by the fact that you said there's a season 2 possibly coming.
Right. I mean, it's conjecture.
But they shut it down in a very clean way.
Exactly.
Watchmen did something similar a little while ago. Told a story that ended. And that I really liked. So, yeah, they didn't quite stick the landing in terms of this, like, bigger idea they were going for in the third episode, I feel. But what still makes the show work for me is the fact that the set pieces are so good and the individual episodes are, like, really strong in their own little section of the story. So overall, it's not like a Game of Thrones type show, say, where if the ending doesn't make sense, you're just like, well, everything before this doesn't make sense either to me now.
Right.
The second episode still stands as a really strong episode on its own, and I think that's the strongest of the lot. Next for me would be 1, and finally would be 3.
I go 1, 2, 3. Probably.
So, okay.
But anyway, but whatever. Point is, really fun time. Even though it's, I mean, by virtue of being a Dracula thing, you're going to put it in the horror genre.
Yeah.
I think it's not really scary at all, and it's just a really fun time at the home cinema.
It is a fun time at the home cinema.
Yeah.
I will agree with you.
I would recommend.
Let's close this, Jishnu, by talking about our favorite vampires. Who's your favorite vampire?
How many are there?
So many. Is it Dracula?
Eddie Murphy?
Eddie Murphy was a vampire?
Wasn't he a vampire at some point?
Why? I feel... Okay, he might have been. I can't remember one.
I should have thought this through.
You should have thought this through. Which team vampire are you, basically? Are you like Team Edward from the Twilight movies? Team Dracula? Are you whoever Abraham Lincoln hunts? I'll tell you my favorite vampire. That's why I asked you the question in the first place. I just want to talk about my favorite vampire.
Makes complete sense.
My favorite vampire is the Count from Sesame Street. Because he teaches you as well, right? He's a Count. Fun fact, I don't think they ever reveal his name. He's just the Count. Count what? Count Dracula is Count Dracula. This one is just the Count.
But is Dracula's surname or his first name?
Yeah, it's Victor Dracula. I don't know. There might be a surname. Anyway, let's count down to the end of this episode in Count style. 3, 2, 1. Bye, nerds.
How many times have you motivated yourself to improve your sleep, or lose weight, or be more productive? How many times have you failed? Hi, my name is Ashton Doctor. Tune into my show, The Habit Coach Podcast, where we focus on creating small, tiny habits to improve your life instead of those big, impossible tasks. So make listening to me a habit every Monday, Wednesday and Friday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com or on your favorite podcasting app.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.